Alright, welcome back to my boss build series. This is my first video of Season of the Witch. I've been enjoying the season so far, so that's why it's been a few weeks since my last video. I'm on Threadrunner today, fighting Praxis, the final scorn boss of Legend Seraph Shield, using Whirling Maelstrom, the new fragment. Thread of Propagation for unraveling rounds, warding for orbs, extra time on unravel from continuity, and then thread of generation to get more grenade energy. I'm not using any surge mods here. I'm trying out emergency reinforcement. I actually was using this on a different, I think on my Titan, on Banner of War, doing a glaive build. But for whatever reason, it's not, I don't know where the bug is at, but during this entire exotic mission, I didn't stack armor charge once. At least it wasn't listed on the left side of my screen. So if I had armor charge and it just didn't say, I don't know. But basically, emergency reinforcement is supposed to consume your armor charge stacks whenever you get super low on health, and give you some extra damage resistance. I didn't really feel a need to use surge mods because, or even like kickstart mods for my grapple or my melee, because I've got, with Widow Silk, I've got 2 grapples anyways, and grapple grenades are on a short cooldown. But the idea behind using grapple grenades is obviously with Sire Tarachni's Facade, which is the only strand exotic we have for Hunter, you get free woven mail every time you grapple. So you definitely want to pair that with Widow Silk so that you have 2 grapples that allows you to establish a grapple point and then re-grapple onto it infinitely. So this is actually easier than collecting orbs for Thread of Warding for woven mail if you play into it correctly. However, I am still using Thread of Warding just for an extra measure of safety. But yeah, so my strategy here versus Praxis, this boss fight, this whole exotic mission is actually harder, I think, than when it released in Legend or in Season of the Seraph, because this has the power cap, so you're at -15 power for the whole mission. And I don't remember if they did that for Season of the Seraph, if that was a thing. I think you might have been able to over-level Legend difficulty, but even so, like, we have a whole new system of weekly surges and threats, so this is actually a fairly different mission than when it released, at least as far as difficulty goes and selecting your loadouts. So I'm basically matching the surges here for the week, which cover this mission, which is Void and Strand Surge. So I figured, as long as I'm matching the surges and, you know, I've got my shields covered, then I shouldn't really need to stack weapon surge mods on my legs, and that would just allow me to play into health regen, you know, so when I pick up orbs I get recuperation, get some health back, and stuff like that. So basically I picked my weapons based on the surge mod. So Quicksilver Storm is kind of my bread and butter. It's an easy way for me to make tangles so that I can get Whirling Maelstrom going. It's a good source for backup damage alongside the ad clear, because, you know, when I have grenades prepped, I just have to get 1 grenade kill to spawn a tangle, you know, as long as I'm not on a tangle cooldown. And then I can get Whirling Maelstrom going, and just, you know, Whirling Maelstrom does a ton of work as far as ad clear goes, and even on even for damage over time. So like, if I can get 1 Beyblade basically going on the boss, it's gonna do a ton of damage. And then for my heavy weapon, I'm using Retrofit Escapade. So unironically, I picked 2 of the Seraph weapons to do this exotic mission. I'm using Tripwire Canary, which is the bow. You're not going to see me use it here during the boss fight, but I used it for the entire mission because there's a lot of arc shielded knights, and there are shank snipers, like especially in the jumping puzzle area where you're out in space. You need something long range to get rid of the snipers, and you need something to cover arc shields, ideally. Even without match game, it's still a good idea to match shields. You get that elemental explosion, which kind of staggers the enemy, and it's just much easier to deal with. So, and then Retrofit Escapade is not only matching the weekly surge, so I'm doing 25% more damage with Retrofit just because of the surge. On top of that, it's a very good boss damage weapon. Maybe not for doing like solo dungeons or raids boss DPS, but for a boss scenario like this, especially when you're doing an entire exotic mission with locked loadouts, you can't just spec 100% into like a boss build per se. So even though, yes, this is a boss build video, my loadout is being mindful of the fact that I've had to commit to one single loadout to do this entire exotic mission. So that's why, you know, Retrofit's covering void shields. There's a few servitors with void shields. There's some Scorn captains or chieftains in this boss fight here that have void shields as well. Usually there's one void shielded chieftain per suppressor area, so you can quickly get rid of them with Retrofit. And then when the boss is on its last phase, there's going to be an extra void shielded chieftain, and this one is like way tankier than the other orange bar or yellow bars. So Retrofit comes in handy there. Also, I'm using one of the seasonal artifact mods. I can't remember what it's called, maybe Rapid Fire Ranger or something like that. You land rapid precision hits and you weaken the enemy. So when I start this boss fight, I usually just go to town with Retrofit, get target lock going and some precision hits to weaken the boss. As soon as the boss is weakened and I'm low on my mag, or if he throws a stasis grenade at me, then I can immediately grapple over to the boss, hit him with a grapple melee, and then pop my super. And then the entire time that I'm doing damage with my super, the boss is weakened. If I'm lucky, ads will come in proximity to me while I'm damaging the boss, and I can just do a heavy attack, twirling attack so that I can kill the ads, spawn a tangle, pop the tangle with my super, and then that whirling maelstrom tangle is going to do extra damage. So that's basically the strategy. Other than that, you know, just using Quicksilver Storm, getting those grenades prepped, that does significant damage to the boss as well. But as far as this new aspect goes, what are my thoughts on it? I am enjoying it a lot. I've been playing a lot of Threadrunner so far this season. I've been on Titan like 80% of the time. With Banner of War and all that, I'm having a lot of fun with a glaive build. But this whirling maelstrom aspect just takes Strand Hunter to a whole nother level. I find this is the highest damage ad clear tangle that you can get in the game, I'm pretty sure. Even with like swarmers on Broodweaver, even spawning, you know, threadlings from your tangles is just not as good as this. Like, this Beyblade just does insane damage. It unravels everything. And then not just that, but because it's constantly unraveling while it has uptime, like while it's up, anything that dies basically is going to spawn another tangle. So you can keep this loop going infinitely with Whirling Maelstrom. You can just have it going, spawn another tangle. You can get 2 or 3 of these up at a time, which is nuts. And it actually feeds threat of generation very well as well. You're going to get a lot more grenade energy back while using Whirling Maelstrom because of the constant tick damage that it's doing. So even though threat of generation did get a nerf and suspend got a nerf, etc., you could still get your grenades back very fast if you're doing good tick damage over time. Yeah, and I've noticed playing around with this build that you just get grenade after grenade. If you have the new exotic fusion rifle Tessellation, that's when I really noticed it, because you can pop a grenade in your Tessellation like one after the next with Whirling Maelstrom and Threat of Generation, and on top of that, if you use something like like Rufus's Fury with Demolitionist or Circular Logic, like, you can really just have grenades after grenades after grenades. So anyways, this is just kind of a quick video. I've got another video put together that I haven't posted yet on Irute and Crota fighting with my hunter, and yeah, so hopefully I'll get to uploading here. There's a lot of good builds that I want to cover, and content is on the way. So if you enjoyed the video, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.